Hey guys, we are back here talking about our next factor, which is taxes. So, we're going to talk a little bit about taxes and how that could impact you based on the current state of the economy and the current debt situation. So, we'll get right into it. So, most people are probably aware there's a few different types of classifications or qualifications as far as how things are taxed. So you have taxable investment accounts. These are going to be things like your money markets, your savings, your non-IRA brokerage accounts that are either taxable on the year you earn the interest or are taxed at a capital gains rate, a different amount than just ordinary income. Your tax deferred, which are most common because that's going to include your 401ks, your IRAs, traditional IRAs, not Roths. And it's also going to include non IRA annuities. Those are all tax deferred vehicles, meaning you don't pay taxes as they earn. You pay them when you pull money out. It's great and very advantageous for you now. Depending on what happens with the state of the tax situation, it may or may not be as great for you later. And those are things we've been doing a lot of planning for when it comes to clients going into retirement. The third is tax free. Tax free meaning Roth IRAs, a lot of municipal bonds, as well as certain types of permanent or cash value life insurance. And that is a very underused strategy that, as people are becoming more and more aware of it, they're looking more at the tax free as a whole. So let's talk a little bit about the national debt. What does that look like? How could that impact taxes as you go into your retired years? Well, currently, after the CARES Act, Secure Act, some of the other things, we're at about 25 or 26 trillion dollars in debt. There is going to come a point where taxes have to go up, and we're getting very close to that point. We'll talk a little bit more about what happens in 2025 when the tax brackets sunset. So, when national debt goes up, so does your taxes. What does that look like? 2008, our national debt was almost $10 trillion, or the equivalent of $92,223 per taxpayer, not per person, per taxpayer. 2020, before the CARES Act, we're at about 23.6 trillion. That's 190,528 per taxpayer. That is a really, really big difference. So, again, I just spoke a little bit about Secure Act, which helped if you were approaching required minimum distribution age. You don't have to take that until 72 now versus 70 and a half. But they took some things away. You can't stretch an IRA if you're a non-spouse for the rest of your life. It's only 10 years. You have to take the money out over 10 years in that situation. The CARES Act, with everything going on with coronavirus and COVID, that added to over $2 trillion. So this talks a little bit about what are the current tax brackets and what does it look like in 2025 if it sunsets and no changes are made. So I want to stress, if no changes are made, 2025 is going to happen. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no question. There's no law someone's got to sign. They actually have to do something for it not to happen. So currently, you're allowed to make up to $171,000 of income if you're married and filing jointly. You are in the 22% tax bracket, so up to $171,000. In 25, you're only allowed to make up to $151,000 and you're in the 25% bracket. So that's a 3% increase and you're allowed to make $20,000 less than you can right now. One of the bigger jumps is if you look at 24% bracket right now, you're allowed to make up to $326,000 of joint income. When 2025 happens, if you're making between 150 and 230, you're in the 28% bracket. So that's a 4%. The big increase, though, is Right now, you're allowed to make up to that 326 and still be in that 24% bracket. If you're making between, 230 and 325,000 as a married couple, you jump immediately to 33, which is a 9% increase. That's a pretty hefty increase. So we talk a little bit about strategies to consider paying lower taxes in retirement. Things like Roth conversions, things like you're trying to control forced income, like when you get to required minimum distributions, things like that. Make sure you consider alternatives. That's very important. So again, today, convert taxable money to tax-free money. You have a 5-year window that we can help lay out a strategy to help reduce your future taxes. So it's very important that whether you take action or not, you at least do planning to see if it makes sense. So during retirement, again, tax efficient withdrawals, that's a big deal. So the next factor that John is actually going to be talking about is investor behavior. So that's all I have for you today. Hopefully you guys found some value, and look for John's next video on investor behavior. Thanks so much, and talk to you soon.